Didn't happen in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reached the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
for all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website.
They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City.
Leicester Till I Die TV. Your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right there. All right at the back. Good evening. How the devil are we all? It's Monday night. It's the opposition show. Apologies, we've had to start a little bit earlier because our guest today is in demand. He's got another show to go to straight after this one. I do actually believe it's the Magic Circle because they said apparently they're very good at pulling rabbits out of the hat, but they didn't know how to pull victories out of the hat when you're not the better team. This is the opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening. 60 minutes of football fun and banter with Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV. Are you ready? Let's get ready to rumble.
And we'll say good evening to Magic Circle Want to Be, Matt Cooper. Good evening, Matt.
Hello, mate.
I'm sure you're happier than we are at the moment. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's always nice to start the week with a win at the weekend. I always find that if we have had a bad result at the weekend, Monday is that little bit tougher. But today I've got a little bit of a spring in my step.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't know.
You would.
It's been that long. You know. Thanks for coming on. First of all, I do owe you an apology for inadvertently using your logo the other week.
It's all right.
You know what it's like? You just Google things. You think, oh, that one looks really nice. Take it as a compliment, please.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's fine. We had a good laugh about it, so no worries at all.
But well, please do tell everybody. Obviously, you're a Wolves fan, where they can find you and see you on the internet.
Yep. So you can find me on Twitter at mcooperwrites. That's writes as in written, and of course my channel, which is Talking Wolves, a channel both my business partner Dave has a party. We set the channel up 2018, I think, the promotion winning season, and we've gone strength to strength as Wolves have kind of grown and progressed and become a regular in the Premier League. So is the channel. So yeah, that's at Talking Wolves across every single social media platform.
Yeah. If you just do a Google search, you'll recognise the logo. Like I say. We did touch on it before, and And after the season sort of we are having at Leicester and watching that game, and I think, you kind of admitted it, that in fairness, we would have probably deserved at least a draw out of that game.
Yeah, I mean, on another day, you probably could have won it. But I think in the kind of looking at it from holistically over the past few seasons, whenever we've played Leicester and lost, I'd probably say more often than not we've been the better team. Whereas Sunday, I think we rode our luck for large parts of the game. I think we started the game well, and after that, it was almost one-way traffic. And Leicester, took the goal well, but there was other chances. Jose Sarr was drawn into making a few good saves, which he's done all season. But at the minute, it's great with Wolves because they've almost got that winning mentality and that never say die attitude and that grit and determination of, all right, we're not having the best game, but two kind of moments of real magic has decided the game.
Yeah, I mean, you probably could have thought that you're going to get at least one goal. Whenever I do the score predictions, whilst I can never, go predict against Leicester, predict a Leicester loss, it's just not in your blood, is it? But I always have to say that the opposition will get at least one goal. That's always guaranteed with our defence this year. Have you been surprised at Leicester? How, after the last couple of seasons?
I think so. And this is probably just from with my Wolves hat on. Every time we've played, I feel like we've probably been better. So when we've been finishing above us, I've been like, I don't really get it. But yeah, I mean, you've had real unlucky injuries with centre half going missing and a few other players, but I really like Brendan Rodgers as a coach. And if Bruno Lage was to lose his job tomorrow and Brendan Rodgers lost his, I'd happily take Brendan Rodgers. I think he's a magnificent coach. From what I understand, his job isn't under threat. But I have been a little bit surprised having Vardy out as well, who will always score goals, but he's got to be on the pitch to do so. So, yeah, I have been a little bit surprised, but it hasn't shocked me.
No, it's interesting what you say there about Rodgers. I mean, if we sort of look at what he's had to do this season, he's had to cope with, at some point, 9, almost 10 defenders out injured at any one time. I mean, obviously not all 10 at the same time, but he hasn't been able to get we don't know whether he's going to play 3, 4, 5, whatever at the back, but I don't think he does. I think he goes in on Friday morning and says, right, who's fit? Right, right, you just go and sit down for the hour, because he doesn't want any more injuries. It has been bad, but there is a lot of unrest amongst the troops, shall we say, in regards to Brendan Rodgers. In fact, tomorrow night, anybody that's watching, we are doing on this channel basically a Rodgers in or out. I'm getting on somebody that's a fervent Rodgers out channel. I mean, most of it is probably media talk because when you look, I don't think any manager buys themselves time. I mean, look at Ranieri. He was gone after winning us the bloody Premier League. But he does. I think the problem with Rodgers is he doesn't come out and blame his injuries. He doesn't do that. So people are looking at excuses as to why we're playing badly. But you would take him, you say?
Yeah, I think he's a tremendous coach. Did wonders at Swansea. Went to Celtic, and it's not an easy task, but it's one you'd expect them to do what he did there with the players at his disposal, especially with Rangers dropping down the leagues. And the job he did at Liverpool, I think, and if you got Luis Suarez, you're always going to have a chance. But they were, if it wasn't for an absolute capitulation at Palace, they'd have won the league and been the first Liverpool manager to win them a title in God knows how many years. So I think he's very underrated. However, I don't think that makes him immune from criticism. I think some of his decisions this season for Leicester have been questionable. It seems like a man who is feeling the pressure. But as you would, I mean, Leicester have been in the Champions League recently. They've even won the league. So there is that pressure there for them to go and, perform against the best. As a Leicester fan, you want to be top 6, top 7, don't you? As a minimum, really. And,
Carry on.
And I think it doesn't look like it's going to happen this season. But then you have to take into account, the players that he's got to work with. Like Justin's been out. Fafana's been out. Indeed, he was out for a spell, hasn't he? There's players that he's brought in, maybe not have done. I mean, I was a big fan of Boubakary Samar when he was at Lille. I thought he was a great player, and he's come in and flattered to deceive, hasn't he? So it's a difficult one. It's almost a perfect storm for Leicester not to do well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the problem is, and good evening to Spencer there. Like he says, Rodgers is a great manager. Name another Prem manager could get 2 top 5 finishes and an FA Cup win. And I should put out, Spencer, an English Super Cup win. I mean, a lot of people do call it the Community Shield, but on this channel, because we won it, we call it the English Super Cup, which they do in Spain. So I don't have a problem with it.
You might be onto something
there. But I think with some fans, and I don't know if you find this with Wolves fans, is when you have a good season, you're expected to have another good season. When you talk to Arsenal fans, last season it was all Arteta out because it was the first time in so many years that they hadn't been in the Champions League, and they felt that it was their God-given right to be in the Champions League. I think that's the problem with Leicester fans. But for clubs like you and Wolves and Leicester to do well, we need one of the so-called top clubs to actually struggle to leave that gap for us to slot into.
Yeah, and I've said this for years. Even if you're standing still in the Premier League, you're going backwards because there's the amount of money that's in the league and the amount of teams that are just improving every window, and which has been a problem for Wolves, really. I mean, the first season we came up there, we had a fantastic window. We brought in the likes of Jimenez, Moutinho, Patricio, Johnny. I can't remember who I signed Jota permanently. Since then, we've not had a window where it's been a success. They've brought a lot of duds. The only kind of real shining light has been Pedro Neto, who's a bit of a hidden gem, really, and Daniel Podence, who's really kicked on this season. But the investment from the board hasn't been there. They spent £35 million on an unproven Fabio Silva, who for me it will be a good player, but Wolves are not in a position to go and spend £35 million on a prospect when we've got such a small squad that's crying out for reinforcements. That you could have gone and got yourself a seasoned central midfielder with that money, and gone and bought another striker who could have done what Fabio Silva's done. And it's not his fault. He's cost £35 million, but it's a very strange transfer, that one. But in terms of kicking on, I mean, it couldn't have got any worse last season. I was one of the first to say Nuno had to go and got a lot of stick for it, but football's about cycles, and he'd come to the end of his cycle. The passion wasn't there. He's such an emotional man, and when you see that emotion in him just dwindle, you know that time's up. And Bruno coming in as pretty much an unknown quantity, really, done really well in Portugal with Benfica for one season. And the man is a genius. The man is an absolute genius.
I mean, I'm not going to say, because at the start of the season, when you do all your predictions and what where teams are going to finish, I actually had you down for not getting relegated, but being in the scrap with Nuno going. I thought it was a perfect fit for you. Surprised how large is it, large or large? I can never know how you pronounce it.
In Portugal, it would be pronounced Brunelage, so Lage, but in England, it's Bruno Lage.
Large, right? Okay, I don't want to upset the guy, but
no,
he's come in, and it's almost been like a seamless swap over. But I mean, why did you feel Bruno had to go?
Felt that Nuno.
Nuno had to go. Sorry.
The style of play was turgid, very defensive, very compact, handbrake football. That we got players such as Ruben Neves and João Moutinho, who this season have been unbelievable. Even Nelson Semedo, who under Nuno, the handbrake was on. It's not even pragmatic, because it wasn't even getting results. And there was we lost 4-0 at home to Burnley. It was shocking. The football, I could have, I followed Wolves all my life. Home and away, season ticket holder. Last season, if I wasn't doing the channel, I would not have watched, because it was that bad. It was horrendous. We were the worst team to watch in the league, period. So he had to go, and I'm so glad that the board made the decision, because look, at the time, it wasn't a popular decision at all. No. Fans still idolised the man, and you know what? Rightly so. He did wonders for us, but I think it shows that despite the stick that the board get, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing when it comes to football.
You can't. As fans, we are very fickle. I mean, I think if you look on football fans up in the dictionary, next to it says fickle. This time last year, Rodgers was being linked with Man United and Spurs and even Barcelona. This year, it's like, God, he's not. He can go. Let him go. It's amazing how quickly things change. But going to the match, I mean, did you feel confident going into this match? Let's say, looking at the form we were on, knowing, we can't keep it. In fact, the first clean sheet, one of only 2 league clean sheets we had was against you in the first game at our place. And I think if you'd had your shooting boots on in that game, you could have got something from that.
Yeah, if Adama Traore racked it the net, the same old story. I was confident, truth be told. I'd said on our podcast, I mean, this month we've had Arsenal at home, we've had Spurs away, we've played you at home, we've now got Arsenal away and West Ham away. 5 huge games in terms of Europe. And this is the game that we all kind of earmarked as the easiest one out of those 5.
I get that.
Yeah, because like I said, every time we played you, I feel like, it's either been a close game or we've been better. And the run of form that you're on, the injuries, the lack of kind of stability, and you play a back 5, sometimes you play a back 4. With a defense, you've got to stick to your guns, and you need that familiarity, and it hasn't been there. And with our attacking players, I felt like they were there to be got at, but it was a lot closer game than I thought it would be. I thought we'd have run out comfortable winners, but on another day you could have beat us.
Yeah, and I think that for us, that's what as much as we can expect at the moment. I know we've still got a fair few games to go, but I think we're looking at mid-table finish and hopefully going as far as we can in the Europa Conference. Because sometimes I think you've just got to say this isn't going to be our season. And we it's been like that. I said because we've had all these injuries. But I didn't predict. I predicted a draw because, like I said, I can never predict a loss to another team. I predicted a 2-2. No. So I was that. I was going, come on, Leicester, you can get that other goal for. I need the points. But I don't. I have this sort of thing about Wolves. I'm a lot older than you, and I can remember Mark McGee walking out on us to go to Wolves, which is quite funny. And this again is another typical fan because we actually poached Mark McGee from Reading, and that was fine. But you poached Mark McGee from us, and that wasn't fine. And the other thing was, of course, that you let us have Ryan Bennett for a season. And
it's a weird transfer. That really weird.
That was very weird. I think we'd have been better off with his brother Gordon. But having said that, I'd have taken him this season definitely.
You needed him this season as well.
But you two great goals from yourselves. I mean, Neves and Podence. I mean, in that second half, we were lucky, I think, to go in. Although we deserved the play, deserved the draw at that point. It was a bit of a scrappy goal that we got.
No, it was a well-worked goal. Great vision from Tillemans, who's I know he's probably going to struggle to keep hold of him, but a very good player.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I don't think we will keep hold of him come the summer. We've kind of resigned for him to go. But it was a case of whoever it hit. It was it could end up in the thing. But coming out in the second half, we were like another team. It was like for 25, 30 minutes, we were all over you. And again, that's typical Leicester, not taking the chances. But you came up with another long range shot. And I don't get it. Defenders these days, I know they hold their hands in because they don't want to handball it, but they've started turning the back on the ball, and that really does annoy me.
Yeah, it doesn't help, does it? Because you can't see where the danger's coming from.
No.
But I think that and this is another example of Bruno being really tactically astute. Is it was 1-1, and the second half it was similar story to the most of the first half. Leicester were in the game, the better team. And really overloading us in the wide areas because we set up with a 3-5-2 initially. Then he brought Hwang on for Moutinho, and that kind of nullified the threat of your wide men. And I think since he brought him on, I think we scored about 5 or 6 minutes later, and the game was a lot more closer then. So that's probably Bruno saying, "Look, I've got it wrong. We're getting overloaded in the wide areas. We'll change that, and we'll take the game to Leicester." And that's what we did. And the Neves goal is a great finish, a really controlled finish, but the Podence one is just it is a great goal, and I'm not sure why Schmeichel was moaning about the offside. I think he's clutching at straws a bit there, but Podence has been really good this season.
I'll give you that. I just don't understand the lot of offsides and handballs in the air in anything these days. I just want to say, well, yeah, let's just go with it. It is what it is, you know. Yeah. But I forgot what I was going to say now. Wolves yourselves, I mean, like I said, apart from the fact that I don't like, I love to see other clubs other than the sort of top six or the big six, whatever you want to call them, getting into Europe. How far can you go this season, do you think? I mean, the table is a bit of a joke at the moment because nobody's played the same number of games. So it's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a couple of games in hand as well. One of them being Watford, one of them being Arsenal. So, again, probably going to be two completely different games. I've been asked this question about 10 times already today. Where can Wolves go? And my answer I've been giving them is, ask me at the end of Feb once we played West Ham and Arsenal. But if you press me for an answer, I think we can definitely get top 7. And if that would to be us qualifying for the UEFA Conference League, then I'd be all for it. Any European trip for me, I'm happy with. We covered the Europa League. We're talking Wolves a couple of seasons ago. It's one of the best experiences I've ever done as a Wolves fan growing up, and mostly largely unsuccessful periods. It's just a dream to go away and watch your team play in Europe, and manage to fulfill that dream. And I want to make it a reality again.
I mean, like you say, you can go down to 7. Well, that's what I like to hear from sort of fans of clubs like Wolves and like Leicester. To us, the Europa Conference, like I say, is it's a competition. It's Europe, you know, and if you win it, it's a trophy. You get like the Arsenal fans and Spurs fans to a point saying, no, we don't want the conference. I'd sooner not qualify for Europe than be in the conference. And I'm like, wobble your head. I mean, what? Yeah. How can you not want to be in Europe, whatever it is?
Yeah, they say it's a distraction, but if anything, going away to Europe to watch game football and get pissed up with your mates is a welcome distraction, if you ask me.
You better the season we're having, yes, it is. You'd agree. But I mean, you've only lost 1 in the last 5. That was just 1-0 to Arsenal, and you never know what Arsenal are going to turn up. Let's be honest with you. But you've got a good defense. You know, your goals against us probably sort of you're the same as Chelsea, one of the least conceding teams in that top half, and that is what you want to. You know, that's the basis for good games, isn't it?
Yeah, I think solid defense is always a good place to start. But last season we were shipping goals for fun, and the back 5 hasn't changed at all, apart from Kilman coming in. Who's been revelation this season. Didn't get a look in under Nuno. Bruno's obviously seen something in him, and rightly so. Cody's been magnificent. Semedo, who looks a completely different player to last season, and Nate Nuri, really good going forward, really solid defensively too. And we're not scoring many goals, or at least we weren't, but we're seeming now to score a lot more goals. And like you said, one loss in the last 5, but it's also 6 wins out of the last 8. And that's great form. I've just got a really bad feeling that we're gonna tail off. But you do, as a fan of a club who hasn't really won much in the last 20, 30 years, you do feel like that. But my only kind of saving grace is we've had quite a lot of injuries, but the likes of Johnny Otto's back now, Pedro Neto's back, Willy Bolly's back, Gerson Mosquera's back. We've got Hwang's back as well. We've got pretty much a full-strength squad now for the first time in probably a year and a half. And Neto is, if you can get the Neto that we had before the injury, my God, we've got a player on our hands. So just hoping he can come back and fire. But he's going to find it difficult to get in the team, as mad as it sounds, because everyone's playing out the skin. The only player that's not really performing to the level is Jimenez, and he hasn't all season, which we kind of expected.
And going back to Bruno, like you said, when he came in after Nuno, and what were your thoughts on him? Because he's not really sort of got a lot of managerial experience.
Initially, we were really excited because at Benfica, he played a 4-4-2, massive emphasis on the wide players kind of cutting inside, and the 2 strikers were almost like, one was like your archetypal number 9, and someone else was like a second striker just playing just off the front man.
Yeah.
And we were like, great, because after playing 5 at the back last season, seeing how shit it was, we were like, great, it's going to be really attacking, real front foot football. And he came in, he stayed with the back 5, and fans were almost like, well, we've been promised 4 at the back, which we haven't. We just thought because he's played it at Benfica,
Yes,
with a better team, probably in a shitter league, that's
Yes.
what we were going to get. But you could tell from the first 3 games, we didn't pick up a single point in the first 3 games. We played Spurs, Man United, and someone else. It escapes me. It was a top team though, and we absolutely battered them. And I mean, it was like, well, I think we had like 28 shots against United, and we couldn't score. And then he tweaked it.
I think we were the other team you were thinking of.
Yeah, it was you. Like, yeah, it was. You know, and I just said a good team. So
I'll take that. I'll take that.
And then he tweaked it somewhat. I mean, it weren't great to watch, but it was getting results. Whereas now, it's almost like the perfect blend of defensive stability and attacking fluidity. The bloke's done an amazing job. We are, and a lot of fans do get annoyed when I say this, but we are overachieving with the squad we've got and the resources been given. He's not really had a pot to piss in, really, in terms of spending money.
Yeah.
And I think a good coach will buy players to fit his system, but I think a world-class coach will coach players that he's already got to fit his system. And I'm not saying he's world-class after 1 season, but he's the job he's doing is fantastic, and we're lucky to have him.
And watching the match, who from sort of, if anybody from Leicester sort of impressed you?
Ricardo, the right back, I'm always impressed when I see him.
Yeah.
Portuguese lad. I'm surprised he hasn't ended up at Wolves.
I'm going to say at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's a really good player. Again, he's been out with injuries, but looks kind of the Ricardo of previous. I'm always impressed with Tielemans. I think he's got absolutely everything to go to the top. Wolves had the option to sign him. It's a bit of a nugget for you before he went to Leicester. And Nuno turned it down, which again I'll never forgive him for. I thought Maddison looked good when he came on, but apart from that, I don't think there was anyone outstanding. I don't think there was anyone outstanding from Wolves. I thought Podence had a good game. I thought him and Tielemans looked kind of a level above everyone else. But if you said to me you can have one player from Leicester, it'd be Tielemans.
I think everybody would take him. And I think Pierre Ricardo's just signed a new contract, so that's good news. Tielemans, like I say, isn't, but we kind of gathered that when you haven't signed a contract for 12 months, you kind of know which way that negotiation's going. But just before we finish, because I'm just watching the time here for you, give me predictions for who you think is going to win the league, because it's opened up a little bit again now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think City. I really do. I think the last time that City lost was, I think, Crystal Palace in maybe October, and then I went on a 14 win run. So I think it was a little blip against Spurs. I think Spurs can turn most teams over. I mean, when we played them, we beat them 2-0 last weekend. Yeah. You can see that they've got the ability to cut open anybody. But against us, it just was that they'd had a bad day in the office and we were really good. So I wasn't surprised with the City result, but City will come back stronger. They won't. I guarantee they won't get beat following the City game, following the Spurs game. I guarantee you they won't. So for me, it'll be City. But from a neutral point of view, I haven't really got a horse in the race because Wolves aren't going to win the league. So I just want Man City and Liverpool to keep winning because they're going to be coming up the likes of West Ham, Arsenal. So as long as they're beating them, I don't really care.
Exactly. Yeah, it has made it more exciting. My choice at the start of the season was Chelsea. They've let me down, but I think, like you say, I think Man City will hold on. And finally, 3 to go down. Is it the 3 that are there at the moment? And sort of Norwich, Burnley, Watford, or
again? This changes on like a week by week basis, and it's so tight at the bottom. I think Norwich maybe left it too little, too late. I think Watford will go down, and it's going to be a little bit left field, but I think Leeds will go down.
Really? Wow.
I said that at the start of the season. You always get I don't like the term second season syndrome. I think it's lazy. I think it's a cliche, but you always find that, especially against, the way that they play, so high energy, so kind of all over the place. And last season, not many teams played like it, and that's why they did so well. It was almost like, well, this is unknown. But I think teams have learned a little bit now how to play Leeds. If you go with them man for man, or you have fluidity within your attack, because everything they do is man to man. So if you're constantly moving around on the pitch, especially the front three, which is where we've done well against in the past couple of seasons, I think that's how you beat them. And they've had horrid luck, just like Leicester, with injuries. Calvin Phillips and Bamford, to their spine. I just think they'll go down. So for me, Watford, Norwich, and Leeds.
My brother from another mother, Dan, who's a Burnley fan, will love you.
I think I'll have enough. I really do. I mean, I've been dicing with death the past few seasons, but I think to get rid of Wood and get an upgrade in Weghorst, I think the result of the weekend was fantastic as well. And they'd rather be in Everton's position or Leeds in positions with the points on the board, but they've got 2 or 3 games in hand, and if anyone can shit ass a win out of anywhere, it's Sean Dyche. So
I must admit, looking at it, I thought they had all these games in hand, but they haven't been winning, and so there's no guarantee. But after the performance of the weekend, they may just be starting to turn it around now. Matt, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem, mate.
It's been a pleasure. Again, your details are in the description on YouTube below, but just give a shout out where people, again, can find you.
So it's M Cooper Wright on Twitter. So that's M Cooper RWITES, and Talking Wolves if you want to follow the channel. But thanks for having me on, mate. It's been a pleasure.
No, thanks for coming on. And like I say, taking rivalry aside, I hope you do well, get into Europe, and have a good run, mate.
Thank you, mate. I hope you win the cup.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Oh, thanks to Matt there. He's got to rush off. He has got another show in about 3 minutes, bless him. It's always nice to hear from the other side after a match. It's tough when you've lost, but we have the performance. But is that enough to save Rodgers? I mean, as you know, anybody that's been listening to me and following me this season on the shows, you'll know my thoughts on Rodgers. He's got to be given time. You've got to judge him when he's got a fully fit team, because we know when we've got a fully fit team, can't get me words out tonight, what he can do. Look at the last 2 seasons. And should he not be given time to turn it around? I agree. People say, well, we didn't give Ranieri time, but we were dicing with relegation. If that changes, then we have to look at the whole thing, of course. But if you think Rodgers should be in or Rodgers should be out, as it says below there, join us Tuesday night for a special Rodgers in or out show at 7 p.m. You could even believe I was reading that, couldn't you? Being joined by Jason, who is definitely a Rodgers out. I think he'd buy him his ticket and drive him to the train station, to be honest with you. So if you agree or disagree with him, join me tomorrow at 7, and we will have a chat about it then. In the meantime, would you just do this for me?
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Yeah, just give us a subscribe if you're not yet on YouTube. It does help. Thank you very much for doing that. I'm going to be back at 9 o'clock. With the aforementioned brother from another mother, Dan. We'll be doing the weekend roundup, where we'll be looking at all the weekend's games. It was a good one for Burnley. It wasn't so good for Leicester, but we'll be looking at all the weekend's games at 9 o'clock tonight. So join me then. Thanks a lot for joining me now. If you've been watching, YouTube, Leicester Till I Die TV, at Leicester TID Twitter, Leicester Till I Die 1 on the old Instagram, and listening on podcast if you are on catch-up. Thank you so much for doing that as well. Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, Podcast Addict, just to name 5. I will see you at 9 o'clock with Dan. Take care, stay safe, and remember, as I always say, don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. Goodbye now.
Leicester Till I Die podcasts on the Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Anchor, and all podcast platforms.
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website. Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
That's all, folks.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now.